PolitiPod Live. Tonight we'll cover Broken Clock SCOTUS Edition, It's War, Epstein Update, and Trump Dump. We'll also have our segments on the media and issue update. I'm Tom Bickle.
I'm Hannah Soldner.
And I'm Matt Nisanoff. We'll start with Broken Clock, SCOTUS edition. There is word that SCOTUS made a decision recently that Eli Lilly, the pharmacy, the mom and pop pharmacy, do we call it that? Is that underselling it a little bit? The
Yes,
pharmaceutical
that
mega
that's a
conglomerate.
happy little organization run out of somebody's garage.
Yeah. So this little small guy who is having such a hard time because of the law. There is a law from the Civil War which says that a person can sue as on behalf of the United States government, and this was used recently against Eli Lilly. Of course, they didn't like it. They prefer the legislation that allows them to not pay taxes. They're not so big a fan of something that could hold them accountable, and so this is the upshot is this case of a whistleblower who provided information about some hinky things they were into uh, wound up being upheld by the Supreme Court. They chose not to listen to Eli Lilly, and so Eli Lilly went berserk. Not okay, not acceptable. How dare they have this old law in the books? And we got to change it. So, in a way, we're saying the SCOTUS is a broken clock because this is a thing they got right somehow. They somehow made a decision that was not just for the benefit of the Republican Party or for big donors, certainly not on behalf of big donors, which is almost shocking to hear this Supreme Court would do something like that. But so they certainly are acknowledged. We wanted to acknowledge that there is once or twice a day that they could be right. This certainly doesn't make up for almost every other decision. And for the voter rights decision that they recently made that allowed for gerrymandering based on political partisanship as opposed to having boundaries drawn for putting similar communities together. But it happened and it's out there. What do you guys think about the decisions, Eli Lilly, the Civil War? What do you think?
Hannah, after you.
I think that it's obviously I'm here for a takedown of Eli Lilly, and it's interesting because there's a lot of laws that I guess one could consider similar to this, like the sort of Texas anti-abortion law from a few years ago, where private citizens could sue people, that I would be against. But I do think that in this case, it could be motivating for a whistleblower, in this case again, who might put their job on the line, their career on the line, their future on the line, depending upon if this is a field they work in a more like technical science-based things, then other drug makers might not want to work with them knowing they did this. So it might be nice to have this I don't know if I want to say reward, but like some incentive to do the right thing on the other side. And I wonder if being a drug maker is something that made the sort of more conservative people a little hesitant, because there are not insignificant members of people who are on Trump's side because of Kennedy, and people who are sort of anti-science and medicine, anti-big drug companies. And so I guess I just wonder, like, if there's some way that, as a company that's a little bit or as an industry that's a little bit in the crosshairs, it can be a little bit more permission for the Supreme Court to go this way on it. But it is shocking.
Right, and to clarify, because I should have said at the start of this. So technically, the Supreme Court was on the side of the whistleblower, but what they did actually was that they refused to hear the case. So Eli Lilly got sued on the lower in a lower court, and they were trying to get the Supreme Court to listen to it to overturn the decision. And the Supreme Court said, "Well, we're not going to do that." The way it was done, the I and pardon me, I don't speak Latin. Quotem, I believe it is. It's a term meaning that you're able to sue on behalf of the king. So maybe the even the term itself was something that SCOTUS could relate to. But what they actually did was they said we're not going to hear the case, and that meant that the lower court's decision stands, which means in turn that in fact the whistleblower was able to win, so to speak, because he was able to bring up information that they didn't want known, and that cost them. The decision was 183 million against them for doing this, and they were shortchanging Medicaid. Is basically what is the actual issue.
Let me say also, sorry, Tom, before you jump in. The Supreme Court realizes they've lost some trust of the people, and so it might also give them some power to be like, I haven't read the exact thing, but yeah, just to be like, it's not even about our opinion, it's not about politics. We just think that like they did proper law. Um, so because yeah, in theory, right, the Supreme Court is supposed to, if you do law improperly, they're supposed to come back and be like, no, you didn't do it right. So this could also, it also gives them a little bit of benefit of the doubt to just be like, no, we think that the judge heard it, and we think that they didn't do anything improperly.
Exactly, exactly. And Roberts knows that the reputation of the court has been severely damaged during his court. He's said that he's trying to, he said prior to many of these incidents that he wanted to make certain the court was held in high regard and etc. And he there's no way that any of those 9 people, even if they don't agree with it, but there's no way they can deny that the court's reputation has gone straight into the dumper, in part because of how Mitch McConnell played out filling the seats. That's just a fact. So I can see where he would occasionally want to try to figure out something to make a decision based on law instead of whatever the considerations are that they're using for most decisions. Tom, if there's anything else you want to say about that, or we're going to move on.
I am flatly amazed. The Supreme Court made a decision that benefited the citizens over big business, the American people and government over big business. Did somebody miss a payment to the Illuminati? This is have we checked to see if they're feeling all right? They they don't really, I don't know, they don't seem to rule in favor of the people too much. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe did somebody on the Eli Lilly board say something unflattering about the president? So they got scuttled because I don't know. Just because it landed on the right side of the coin facing up. I don't put much past them. Also, I read that it was like $330 million recovered to the U.S. government. Where were our people? Where were our accountants and detectives and fraud people and bean counters to, if we're getting screwed on the back end, somebody should have known that. And it took some private citizen, a pharmacist and lawyer, I'm reading here, to do anything about it. Why are we so asleep at the switch? That's all I got.
Fair enough. We are moving on to our first segment of the night, and that is on the media. Looking at what's going on in the world of media. Hegseth, I'm sorry, what is he? Secretary Hegseth recently held a.
It's okay. He doesn't know what he is either.
Yeah, exactly. Um, the Secretary of Defense said that in a press conference that he was uncertain about the media and some people in the media, that he really didn't know whose side they were really on. And this is the hyperbolt of the MAGA and the alt right movement. But he did. He had the platform, so he did. He came out and said how the media is doing a horrible job and that he doesn't know if some of them are even on our side, whatever that means. So this is an attack on the media that's occurring. And this, even after there were, even what happened at the the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that he would attack the media on that sort of way after such an incident. I thought that they were all for not bringing things up so closely to when events happen like that. Um, so that was worth mentioning. I don't know if either of you would like to say anything about Hegseth or just
Fuck it.
raise a toast to him or what. I don't know.
Down with Hegseth. I'd like to say that about him.
Fair enough.
Same.
Okay. The next media issue is Keith Olbermann. That's someone I'm sure that all of us have not only know who he is, but have watched his show or listened to his podcast or both. Or now I didn't necessarily catch up with him during his Sports Center years, but during the political correspondence portion, I've certainly know who he is and what he thinks, and I certainly appreciate what he does. He has had to pause his show until June due to health issues. He has a health issue that he needs to address. We certainly wish him well. At the time that he announced this, he included a mention of Ted Turner, who the media magnate, multimillionaire, and he gave a tip of the hat to Ted Turner because Turner had recently died. And the doors are open, folks. Anybody want to say anything about either Keith Olbermann or Teddy Turnstile?
Not much. You didn't leave much meat on that bone, I suppose. Olbermann is pausing his show due to health issues. He's got, I think, a heart arrhythmia, and yeah, wish him well. I enjoy his show. I listen to it with regularity, and he's he is both a baritone, straight ahead news guy, and also a kind of a catty bitch. He loves to tell stories and occasionally crap on people from great height. But his heart's in the right place. He wants what's best for this country. He's nuclearly furious with the current administration and never misses an opportunity to kick it in the ass when deserved, which is often. So you got to love it. How do you not love it? And hope he's back and kicking by the end of June. And yeah, he also had a little slightly affectionate remembrance of Ted Turner and his time where they worked together. Part of his show is that he likes to tell stories, so he retold that story.
Okay, on we move. There's a question about over Anderson Cooper. Here's another media icon, someone who's been around for a long time, certainly has established himself on CNN, and apparently he had to withdraw himself from one of his positions. The Somehow the media world has collided, and CNN and CBS both had him on the payroll and had him doing things, and he had to withdraw from the CBS side of his deal, 60 Minutes, I guess. And there was a question as to due to the timing of it, that there was some interest in, wow, the president and his minions were able to sink Stephen Colbert, or at least they portray themselves as having been able to sink Stephen Colbert. And now here's Anderson Cooper with the change of leadership at CBS. All of a sudden, this Barry Weiss, who has somehow become important in the news world after not particularly having a career in the media, or certainly not on the news side of the media. But now she's in charge, and all of a sudden Anderson Cooper is out. Um, what do you think?
Hannah, I went first last time, please.
All right, I think that Cooper. I guess there is a part of me. I mean, he has always seemed that he might have some workaholic tendencies. Um, so maybe to take some time off is good. But yeah, it's hard to ignore the influence of Barry Weiss, especially as a person who, as you alluded to, Matt, like her history in media is on media criticism, not on fact finding, sort of hard journalism, as it were. Um, and she had this Substack, um, and it became sort of big very quickly. But it seems like, I don't remember who I heard say this, but I heard somebody say, like, in the media nowadays, you don't necessarily actually need to appeal to a mass audience as long as you can appeal to a small audience of like very wealthy billionaires. Um, and she seems right in there. And for some reason, Trump and his ilk have this weird desire to both sort of delegitimize uh, news institutions as well as control them. And it's interesting because, like, a lot of news institutions have been kind of going downhill for a while, right? There's been a lot of um, stories that are actually advertisements, but they're sort of formed as stories, and um, opinion pieces, more energy spent on opinion pieces than actual journalism, and shutting down of local newspapers and things like that have been happening a long time, for, a while now. And I just feel like there's, I don't know, I'm torn between this, like, he's taking control over these things as they are kind of going downhill, the criticism that he's giving, and there's not any, but at the same time, I guess it kind of reminds me of, I think I brought this up a couple weeks ago, and Matt, you might have known who it was, but I didn't. But like, one of the people who was sort of a shit stirrer that he then put in his administration, who was like head of FBI or something, and they're like, oh wow, it's actually a lot of real work. Um,
Bongino?
like,
Or
is that who it was?
Bongino. Yeah, Tom brought that one
Bongino.
up.
Yeah, Bongino. And I mean, like, I feel like that's the kind of thing, is it's all it's all the spectacle of it, the Hollywood of it, the, hey, I'm, Barry Weiss, and I control, I'm whatever. She's younger than I am, and she now controls CBS, and and whatever. And this idea that it kind of shows it, not because she's some wonderkind, but because we've decided that, or it's been decided for us, I guess that is the nature of living under authoritarianism, that, like, um, what it means to be CBS in our minds is more important than the work that CBS has done in the past. One last thing before I pass it off. It's also frustrating to me. This is why I brought us some of this other stuff. I have a lot of criticisms of these major networks, especially over the last few years. And it feels weird to be like, Barry Weiss, you're coming in and like messing up this network. It feels weird to be putting all this energy. It kind of feels the way that it does with the Democratic Party to be like, hey, vote for our people. They're not going to do anything, but it's better than the alternative. So I feel a lot of that energy around it.
All right. And one last thing I'll mention during this segment, and that is that Elon Musk had sued over an AI company that had started as a charity that he had been a part of. He then sold his portion of it, got out of it, and people who were remaining decided to change the mission of the organization from being a charity to being for profit. So he got upset and decided to sue over that, which I guess he has that right. However, he also has the right to lose, which is exactly what happened. The judge decided that he really didn't have a case and threw it out, which is understandable. He's no longer involved with it, so he doesn't get to make the decisions. He doesn't really pick up on that kind of subtle change where when you're no longer in charge, you don't get to make the decision. It could be. I mean, that's my interpretation of it. I could be wrong. I should say that's allegedly what he was that brought him to it. But Musk is as much a loser as Orban from Hungary. Let's move on to It's War.
And it's war!
Thank you, Groucho. Appreciate that. Right on time, and you did the full thing. Good job, man. It's War, and this is actually kind of even more confusing this episode, I think, because it's everyone's bombing everybody else. Everybody's supposed to be in peace talks. Nobody is. And the top issue, I guess, is, or the one that brought this up to our minds was Russia hit Kyiv in the Ukraine, started bombing the capital after there was supposed to be a peace. There was supposed to be some sort of peace talks going on. In turn, Russia complained that Ukraine responded by bombing Moscow and may have killed a couple of people. It's I don't know that it's terribly no. Whether you like war or not, you can be for it, you can be against it. Okay, but if you are a nation at war with another nation and you bomb them, I don't think it's unexpected that they might try to bomb you back. That's I mean, that's the basic concept of a war is that you don't just get to do stuff for yourself, that the person you're opposing is going to also try to do stuff too. So the fact that Russia tried to sort of,
Is that really fair, though?
well, now there's the debate.
I'm being facetious. Of course, if you assault someone, then the rule book goes out the window, more or less. More in this case, because Russia will bomb your school, apparently, bomb your apartment building, bomb your water facilities, bomb your civilian power stations, uh, all day long, and never apologize for it. So yeah, of course it's fair, and I'm glad it's starting to cost uh, the attacking country something. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No interruption at all. Yeah, it's you're exactly right. This is uh, the fact that they're trying to also play victim because Ukraine sent some drones over there is I'm not quite certain what the end game of that is, other than it's perhaps they're hoping that people will read it and not consider anything else, not consider any other facts, or not know about the other facts, and we'll just see, oh, those horrible Ukrainians are bombing those poor Russians. Maybe that's it. That's certainly. Um, I mean, that would be a one way to justify this media spin. Also, on one other issue with its war is that the U.S. had claimed that it would not bomb Iran on Tuesday. They were going to give it a break. I don't know if we have any reports from today of having
That's just long
restarted
enough
stuff.
they can get their stock trades in.
Yeah, exactly. They want to make
Um,
certain that. Yeah.
I didn't see anything about us bombing, so go us. We kept it at least for a day. But apparently, I think it was the Prime Minister of Israel, like, sent out a video of himself taunting some uh, people that they had, was it imprisoned? Um, so detained activists. Um, it's not, there's not bombs, which I guess is good, but there has still been sort of snideness.
There you go. That's where you are. And you say that it's good that we kept our word, and I guess that's true. But what I would expect more is that we'll find out in 3 weeks that there was some sort of delay in the shipment of bombs or something. I mean, in other words, taking advantage of a situation to say, "Oh, look at how peaceful we are. Look at we're not going to bomb them tomorrow." Um, and then we'll find out that there's something that was preventing the U.S. from actually doing it. And this is
Right.
once again
We
the
just
sort of
use that time to
spin.
reload.
Right. These are the sort of people that work off of that sort of spin. So it'll be interesting to keep tabs on this. That's why we have an issue update section on occasion when we go back and look at other issues that we've covered before and sort of give you an update on it. And oh, hey, look at that. The next segment is issue update. This is all about ICE in this case. They have named a new chief. The old chief finally retired, and there's a new person who has been put in charge. And we'll have to see if he gets a long trench coat like some of their other, like the border guard guys do. But for right now, new guy's coming in. We'll see what he does with it. We don't know if he'll revise the document from 2006, which encouraged border patrol guards to always say that somebody was trying to run them over with a car to justify drawing their weapon and firing into a vehicle, and that there was a procedure that was literally outlined for the border guards to justify being able to shoot United States citizens. I don't know that that document has ever been rescinded or in any way updated. And so we'll see if this guy does anything about it. There's also um, some concern that as ICE is targeting people who look slightly different from themselves, that there's the World Cup, the soccer World Cup, where nations gather together to have some soccer games and see who's doing the best. And these games are happening all over the United States and some even in Canada. And there's a couple others, I believe, that are going to happen down in Mexico, but in North America primarily. And here we have a policy of trying to capture and potentially and occasionally shoot people who look different from the people leading ICE. And so, what's going to happen? There's a genuine concern about what will happen to people who are either players in World Cup teams or fans. People want to travel to see these games, and there's usually an uptick. And part of the reason for doing it is an uptick in tourism and getting people who want to pay to come visit and watch the games and stay. And there are some nations where they're telling people don't go, don't spend your money going to the U.S. You're going to regret it, and it's hard to argue them on that point. But what do you guys think? Is there anything about ICE or anything about the new leader or what they're up to?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel a little bit like I only have a little bit about the new leader because it feels a little bit like moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. But I will say, as far as the World Cup goes, this should be like the easiest soft power win possible, right? You are having people come play sports, like the world's most popular sport in your country. Um, it should be a whole, like, this should be a slam dunk of like how we show off how cool we are as Americans and how friendly we are to other countries because people are coming to play. And it just feels like
Not that. Yeah.
yeah, well, and like not only that, I mean, Matt, you characterized it as fear, but like there was all this idea of like sending ICE to the Olympics this year as like personal security or whatever. So like I don't know, there's just like there's significant reasons to be afraid, and there's no reason to do that.
Absolutely true. I mean, there's no reason to do any of the stuff that they're doing with border and ICE, and yet that's the flavor of the day. That's what that's what's happening, and so you're right. These are justified fears, justified concerns. Just
Well,
traveling here, much less actually being one of the players.
but it's not just the justified concern for me. This would be a time to be like, look, all the Americans talking about ICE, that's overblown. Look, we have people coming from all around the world. They were all treated great. And there was no problems. Like it could have been a huge, like, sort of propaganda push to be like, it's all made up. But instead, no, it's dumb.
Well, right, but at the same time, they're proud of the sort of positions they take on this. They're proud that they can bully people who don't look like them. They're proud that they can justify shooting people in their cars. So I get your point. It could be a PR victory for them. It could be the way to say, we're the same old America. We're here to provide an opportunity, and they can come and have their game and enjoy it, and we want to be part of it. But I mean, they could even justify giving away a peace prize with that if they really wanted to. And yet, that's all going to be subservient to the need to show dominance, to show that they are justified in their cruelty. So
So
to
you're
them,
right.
it's just another opportunity for cruelty. But we'll see. Well, the games, we'll have to see how they actually play out.
Well, so I don't I don't understand this world we're living in anymore. You're going to have events like the World Cup and the Olympics in this country. I mean, in this economy, but that too. But this country has been aggressively abusive to anybody with brown skin that might happen to even sound or look or smell like they didn't grow up here from a single cell. We've been demonstrating this without reserve for what is this, 14, 16 months? We've been diving for the bottom aggressively. Why would you come to this country? People aren't coming to this country. I've traveled not that long ago, and the plane is full going out and half full coming back. People don't want to come here. If I owned a business here that had any connection to tourism, I would be beside myself. No one, I look, I don't know what they're seeing in their media, but from what I'm seeing, and they have to see it, other countries aren't going to censor our media to make us look better. They're going to show all the gory detail. We probably don't even see the half of it. They have to see what's going on. We're shooting our own citizens in the street. What do you think they're going to do to you? They're going to send you to CCOT so you can get abused for the rest of your short life. They're going to send you to some chain link hell in, Florida or whatever to eat moldy food and be stacked like cordwood at night so you have room to sleep. Are you kidding me? People, and it's not even just the brown ones, which are definitely, taking their share of abuse, but it's people from, Finland and France and, they're not just going after the old tired stereotypes of what racists who they want to put the boot to. They'll put it to you too, son. Nobody is safe. I don't feel safe in this country as a citizen. I cannot imagine I cannot imagine exposing myself to that type of risk. Because when you walk through the place, listen, it's not unusual, at least in the news. And I don't know if it's still true. I don't hear it as much as I used to, but they'll grab your phone to see if they don't like anything you said. People are bringing burner phones like CIA agents, like spies, because they don't want to. They don't want them to see how many times they said "fuck Trump" in the last 6 months, because they'll never see their family again. What the hell is going on in this country? And not even from a moral standpoint. Again, if I had a business that depended on any way on tourism, or I mean, it's World Cup soccer, for God's sake. This is a very expensive country to fly to on a good day. These are not good days. The fuel prices are up. The supply chain's been just hemorrhaging money since COVID. It's never getting better. It hasn't gotten better. It's expensive to come here, and these are a lot of people who like soccer. They're not always from wealthy countries, so I mean, I'm stereotyping, categorizing, but I'm telling you, it's not cheap to come here, and some countries are not as wealthy as others, and that you're already facing an uphill slog, and then you're stacking just more and more pain and risk and danger and expense and inconvenience, and oh, by the way, danger. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. They're gonna do everything for the World Cup that they did for the live soccer meet that we did last month that had like 3 people. I cannot imagine. I hope people do not come. I'm sorry to say it. People love soccer. I don't love soccer. I try to love soccer. It doesn't really work, but it's fun anyway. I wish these people could come here and celebrate the greatness of this nation, but this ain't the year for it. This ain't the year to do that at all. We are currently struggling with our greatness.
Yeah,
It
and
appalls
there,
me, even for the self-absorbed and self-interested. There's a lot of money going down the shit shack, and again, somebody must have missed their payment to the Illuminati, because we're talking. I mean, somebody somewhere is losing a lot of money, and I'm not just talking about little mom and pop stores. Somebody somewhere has to be suffering from this, that people in power actually care about, not you and me, of course. And I don't know how. I don't know. Even my most cynical understanding of the system we have is flummoxed and doesn't understand how this is working. So I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, there are those uh, of the states on the borders. There's been talk about how businesses are down 45% in sale revenue because there are people just not showing up who would usually be happy to jump across the border for something. And they're staying away because they feel threatened. They feel that and they are justified in feeling that. And so you're absolutely right. It's hurting people. It's hurting businesses, people, business, and the only people it's not hurting are the ones who are apparently the ones in power and the ones with the authority right now. So you're right. On that happy note, I think we
Yes.
will move ourselves along to our next issue. And this in itself will be quite a piece of joy in that it is the Epstein update. And our version, of course, is unredacted. So we're going to use all sorts of words, and you're going to hear them all. The latest, this is because we were talking about this. We talk about Epstein all the time, but we really haven't actually seen or brought up issues related to Epstein that have come up recently. And so Tom was suggesting that we do that. We do a quick update so that we are talking about what's current, as well as the fact that the Epstein list has not been, the unredacted version has not been provided as it was said to be. So there is the issue of the House Oversight Committee meeting where one of the guards who was watching Epstein gave testimony about how the suicide took place, but then weeks after that, they found the the person who was his cellmate found the suicide note, and it seemed very weird because apparently he grabbed it from. It had been the cellmate says it was found in a book that one of Epstein's books, and they were not particularly known for sharing. They weren't particularly known for sharing these books. That's certainly true. And in fact, there are reports that they did not get along. This is not a cellmate, as in roommate in college, where you might have a little bit of a difference with, but you pal around with. This is someone who they specifically did not get along with, and in fact, there's some evidence that the cellmate had attacked him at one point prior to that, but now he's saying, "Oh, we were really just best of pals." Right after I found the suicide note. So there's some interesting repercussions from the guard's testimony. Anything you'd like to bring up about the testimony or the guard, or before we move on to the other topics in this issue?
No, but it just occurred to me that Epstein had a cellmate, and that would suck. I would hate if he lived in the same room as me. I mean, like, prison is not great in any sense, but
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, a lot of that going around in prison, I think.
yeah, but wow.
Well, I saw that they asked her about financial payments she received, but some people were unconvinced. Let's see. Subramanyam told reporters that Noel said the funds were from working overtime. She deposited them into her savings account, and the Congressman Subramanyam believes that. He says, "I don't think she was paid any extra money not to do her job that evening."
Okay, well, that's one person who believes it.
Yeah.
What about the actual note itself? I think that people were looking at this note and they were wondering about it, in part because he it contained some phrases that were popular that Epstein was known to use, but it does seem kind of weird that they're written into the note. You know, the way you talk is not always the way you spell things, not always the way you write things out. But here he used several of his sort of catchphrases in the note. Um, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm glad to say I don't know how Jeffrey Epstein usually spoke or wrote or typed. But I mean, somebody does. Somebody should know, and it seems like something that could be investigated and researched and compared. The note had very particular handwriting. It had very particular bad spelling, from what I'm seeing. He spelled the word nothing with a U.
Yeah, abbreviations and misspellings and
Yeah, and is it even his note? I mean, yeah, you don't want to go conspiracy theory immediately, but it's worth asking. Did the man write that way? Does it look like his writing? It's been sealed for so long. I don't know. Who do we look to at this point? Obviously, the Justice Department does nothing but disappoint, and we don't expect Tash Patel to be breaking any big news anytime soon. And look how quickly we got comfortable with that. But what about journalism? What about investigative reporters? Can they do anything with it? Will they? Have they? And I just don't know it. I'm unsatisfied. It seems like the current modern media is powerless, paper tiger, toothless, ineffective. And I don't know if it's a problem of motivation, if it's from above. I don't know. I don't understand, but I
well,
would
I
expect by now somebody would have cracked these codes.
I do want to point out though, and I get your point that you don't read his that you have never had personal correspondence with Jeffrey
Glad to say I'm
Epstein,
one of the few that don't,
that you
apparently.
didn't have a chance to chat with him. You never were on the Lolita
Yeah,
Express. We
exactly.
can run your name through that list
Our
that
communications were
DXO has.
mostly verbal and breathless over the phone, so you'll have to forgive me.
But I know where you can find a couple 100,000 emails by the guy, and that is not only
Cam
does
Bondi's desk
that
under it.
right? Not only does it exist, but it's actually accessible. So there's there is a way that a citizen journalist or a real journalist even could compare the writing in this and the abbreviations, etc. And apparently, they said that the catchphrase at the end was a specific one that they had found in the emails as well. So there's somebody looking, even if it's not you specifically. That there are some people who are looking into it a little deeper and seeing if there's something to talk about. See if there's something that needs to be said.
I'm appalled at this day and age that the paucity, the lack, the relative few number of people who are actually doing things where, when I was growing up in those halcyon days, and maybe it's just nostalgia, but I would think that if somebody should be doing something about something, eventually somebody was. It's usually the reason you didn't cheat on your taxes or jaywalk or speed through town with your eyes closed. It's because somebody somewhere is watching and you'll eventually get caught. I don't feel like that's happening anymore. I think they've fired a lot of the watchers and corrupted the rest. And I don't have a lot of faith that people are looking into things they should look into. But every now and then we get a nice surprise, and I'm proven wrong. So we'll look forward to the next one of those.
Well, speaking of that, excuse me, can you tell us anything about the news from France?
And what? I'm not picking up on your vibe.
There's an investigation over there of Epstein, and there were a list of another
right.
10 victims that's come to light. 10 more victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Giselle Maxwell and Donald Trump and the rest of them, allegedly. So can you fill us in on anything on that?
Well, I've read that there are about 10 previously unidentified suspected victims recently have contacted authorities, widening a probe into possible abuse committed in France or involving French accomplices linked to the late financier. So, French magistrates are seeking to investigate possible offenses in France or involving French perpetrators. Some victims were already known to investigators, but also had new victims come forward, and yeah, we got that to look forward to.
Well, I mean, there's an opportunity,
The
the sort of thing you were talking about. I'm sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
it seems like the prosecutor put out a call for people to come forward. And I guess she made a statement that some of these people, as Tom said, were known, but we just started believing them now. There's probably a certain degree to which, if you're familiar with the Giselle Bellicot case in France, and the woman who was assaulted by her husband and 50 other people while she was asleep and drugged, it's a horrible case. But France has really kind of taken it as this idea of like, wait, like let's start digging into accusations of sexual assault. And so they found a lot of different stuff, but I'm going to guess that if not explicitly, at least that kind of empowered this prosecutor or others to reach out and be like, hey, like, did we ignore you? Come try us again. Like, we're open to listening. So, and I've seen some other stuff that's come up in France of like people finding stuff like that recently. So it's good.
Yep. Well, and as Tom was saying, let's hope they actually follow through and do the investigation and provide evidence and pursue it as opposed to ignoring it or looking into it as long as they need to have the media think they're looking into it and drop the ball
Right.
and don't do anything and let it go. So we'll keep an eye on it. See what they do. Speaking of maybe do. It's time for our Trump dump. There we go. So I think one of the bigger stories that's most recent has been about the Department of Justice setting up $1.8 billion is a fund for Donald Trump to hand out to his friends, the folks who showed up on January 7th, felons, most of them now. They were sent to prison and they were sent for over a year, although they were pardoned. However, accepting a pardon is part of accepting a pardon is accepting guilt in the decision. So they are guilty. And Donald Trump has found a way to give them money, and not a small amount, but a significant slush fund that's literally put together by the Department of Justice. And as perverse as that might seem, there's also apparently some clauses in the way it was set up. The wording and the wording of it allows for Trump and his family to be not held liable in anything that happens after the money goes out, which in and of itself is enough to, I think, cause someone to look at that and say, huh, gosh, why would you need that? So you need to have liability from what could happen because you kind of expect something to happen and you want to make certain that you're protecting yourself. Let's talk about DOJ first. I'll open the floor. What do you think? DOJ's slush fund.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to sputter apoplectic with just the bald-faced audacity of corruption. And, you threaten to sue the country because somebody cut loose your tax documents as well as hundreds of thousands of others. You sue basically yourself because you're suing the country you apparently run now, lock, stock, and barrel. And when the case went to court, the judge was about to throw it out, so he dropped it. And he didn't. There was no legal settlement. There's no settlement. They dropped the case because it was on its ass, and then they decided that Trump wanted money, and the acting attorney general wanted to give him the money, so they made a settlement. It's not legal. It's basically an agreement by two scumbags to hand money from one to the other. And oh, by the way, it's only a fifth of what the ridiculous number you were suing the country for. So yeah, he really cut us a break on that one. Cut us a nice discount. It's ridiculous. It's corrupt out loud. It is brightly corrupt. It is a flashing yellow beacon.
Yeah, and it's not one person handing another person money. That's tax money. That's taxpayers' money.
Yeah, it's our money
handed over.
But I mean, it's not any sort of where a judge went, well, this is a settlement is, above board, and it's not like that. And just the fact that they're trying it, just the fact that they said it out loud to each other at some point, much less that they tried it, is well past any type of limit for impeachment, for go to jail kind of corruption. It's breathtaking, and we should act accordingly. And I can't wait until we do, but apparently I have to.
Especially as handing over money that way and in other ways is also a thing with the ballroom, right? The ballroom, the big, beautiful ballroom, whatever you want to call it. Is initially he was going to do it and he was going to have his rich friends cover the cost. And so you didn't, taxpayers don't even worry about this. It's none of your business. Just because it's half of the White House, don't leave and look because this is going to be paid for by my rich friends.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden,
now that he said it 1,000 times and all the idiots on the other end of his Truth Social account have heard taxpayers aren't paying for it. Taxpayers aren't paying for it. Now he's flipping the switch and he's doing what he wants, and it'll just be like, oh, what was that thing I thought I heard about? Oh, well, back to work.
Right.
Hannah, you were going to get in on this?
I was actually going to say something about the previous story, though I do have thoughts about the ballroom. Just two little things to note. The settlement you mentioned it's a fifth of what it is, but we didn't mention the number that is 1776 million. It's 1776. It's like such an asshole. This is when the country was founded number, which is so very Trump. And then one of the immunities that it gives is him and his family any immunity from any financial things in history up until now. So basically, if Trump comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, I lied on my tax returns my whole life," there's no repercussions for that now. Or I embezzled a bunch of money, no repercussions. And basically, their excuse was they need this so that we can move forward, which is not true. And also, like, at the end of the day, like if somebody reveals my tax returns or whatever, I never would get to sue them for $2 billion or 1776 million. That's a crazy. That's more money than I will make in my lifetime.
Sue them for 10 billion.
Right.
Settle for 2.
But it's like it's a made up number. Like that's not.
The whole thing's made up. That's
Yeah.
that's the great part.
But yeah, it's like not even proportional. Okay, anyway, we can talk about the ballroom.
Please, yeah. Please
One of the
feel
things
free
I
to
want
add
to
in
say,
about the ballroom, then we'll move on. We'll wrap up.
one of the things I want to say about the ballroom is recently I just kind of saw this like in a news report that kind of got passed over, or at least in the places I saw it kind of passed over, when he called the reporter like a stupid person or whatever. But he just kind of dropped like, "Oh, I doubled the size of the ballroom because it needs that," and it didn't even need what it currently is. Why does it need to be twice the size?
Well, when you're taking a percentage, your percentage gets bigger.
Right.
If you double it.
All right. Well, let's move towards wrapping up. And what we'll do is we do want to mention the China trip, but let's do about 30 seconds to a minute each on any thoughts on the China trip. And then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Tom, what do you got on China?
I mean, Trump went to China and he came back with empty pockets, empty hands. He didn't make any big deals. He didn't cut any ice. And if you even watch a 30-second supercut of all the nonsense, all the tough talk, oh, he's going to show China, boy. Oh, you wait. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get Xi in a headlock and I'm going to kick some ass. And those Chinese aren't going to take advantage of the good old US of A. Boy, what I tell you. And he gets over there and he can't suck it deep enough and hard enough. He can't just prostrate himself any harder. I think he got a cramp prostrating. Just G is just so beautiful and everything's so great. It's such a big honor and you're so big and strong. It was embarrassing. And and they punked him. They punked him. They gave him rose seeds to plant in the garden. That's a parking lot now. Anyway, that's probably my 30 seconds.
That's it. And Hannah, your turn.
Sorry. I don't know. This isn't necessarily like what happened during the trip, but it's a result of the trip. When he came back, he mentioned something about because they're trying to make a arms deal with Taiwan so that Taiwan can buy arms from us to keep themselves, protected. And I feel like he kind of like undermined the whole part of that after like years and years of like strategic, like, let's not talk about who's in control of what and whatever is in power of whomever. Trump just kind of like goes around and just like eviscerates all of that stuff and, really kind of puts Taiwan in danger. And yeah, who knows what's going to come from that, but it's ridiculous.
All right. And yes, I would agree with all of those things. The whole thing of the trip where he's a sycophant in front of people, he always does that sort of stuff. The punking of them with the rose seeds when the rose garden has been demolished by Melania. The whole thing with the chair where they had set the chairs up so they would look at the same height, but Trump walks in and takes stuff off of the chair so he can sit on it and then winds up looking like a third grader at the big boys table.
Like a putz.
Like a putz. And This is the masterful art of the deal that we get. And actually, I'd also add the next visit directly after him was Putin. So Putin goes to China a couple of right after him and gets concessions to help fight Ukraine and gets all sorts of backing towards how they're going to address Iran. I mean, it just made everything Trump said he got looks pathetic, which, of course, it was. And
They were going to let Putin come first, but then they knew they wouldn't be able to keep Trump from smelling the seat that he sat in. So they knew they had to switch it up.
Too true. And that brings us to our Epstein count up. I believe that we keep track of this sort of thing here. The number of days the unredacted Epstein list has not been released is currently 3,991. Mark it on your calendars. It's going to keep going up. Thanks for joining us at PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find that at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod.
I'm Tom Bickle.
I'm Hannah Soldner.
And I'm Matt Nisanoff saying goodbye.